Hi everyone, this is a video response that I'm making to a video that I just saw. I wasn't really ready to make a video, but then when I saw this one I just felt the impulse to just make a response. It's a video by one of my favorite friends here in the community. It goes by the name of the Sgt. Pepper's 13, and I will try to leave a link, as long as I can remember, on the bottom to this video. Basically, he was talking about some problems that he's been having when he goes on Facebook, I think it was. And on Facebook, people are kind of always questioning why he leaves the shrink wrap on albums, and oh, it's going to warp your records, and giving him hell from that and kind of other things too, saying that you're young, you don't understand. I don't even think he's that young. He doesn't look that young to me, not young enough to be clueless like they're accusing him of. I don't really understand all that, but I don't do Facebook. I'm not interested in Facebook, and I'll tell you the truth, based on everything I've heard from people who are on Facebook, and it's just about everybody, I'm not missing anything. So as of now, I've been refraining from going on there, and I think I'm going to keep from going on there a little longer. But when I was preparing to do this video, I pulled out a few albums to try to make my cases here, and I'm not sure that it's going to go the way I thought it was, because, well, it's better if I just tell you as I go along. A couple of things that surprised me in this video, but my feeling is this. A lot like the Sgt. Pepper's 13, I like getting albums in their shrink wrap whenever possible. To me, it's an upgrade, not a downgrade. To me, it's kind of a waste when I'm in my record store and I see somebody, whether they're young or whether they're older, doesn't matter, and I see them find, say, an album. It could be anything. It could be Billy Joel's the Nylon Curtain album, and they take the album, it's got the shrink wrap on it, and it's got the hype stickers on it, and I keep asking myself, when they get home, are they going to tear that shrink wrap off? I feel like it. I have a little joke that I tell one of the guys at the record store. I say, you know, those kind of things are wasted on people that are not going to be collectors and have the hype stickers. I mean, these days, an album should have its hype sticker. It should have its cellophane if you're a collector. I feel like, gee, if there's a nice album of Billy Joel's Nylon Curtain, or whatever it is, a Beatles album, anything, and Kiss album, whatever it is, and this person's just going to go home and pull the shrink wrap off it, even if it's open shrink wrap, a used album. I'm not talking about brand new album. I'm talking about a used album, mostly. When you find a used album that has the side split open where the opening is and the original shrink is still on it, and they intend on pulling it off, let somebody else have that album that's going to appreciate the shrink wrap. Now, of course, that's not, you're allowed to buy whatever you want. I'm not telling you don't have the right to buy an album with the shrink on it if you're not going to keep it on, but I'm just talking about, it's almost like seems immoral to me. You know, it's legally fine, but immoral in a way. Anyhow, so you know, this business that, oh, if you leave the shrink wrap on your records or you keep them sealed, it's going to warp the record. From my personal experience, 99% of the time that's not the case. Tiny percent of the time, I've only have a couple of examples here that show a possible warpage. My feeling, my personal experience has been that some of the records, you know, the ones that are made in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the cardboard's pretty thick on those album jackets, and I don't think you're going to have to worry about shrink-wrapped albums getting tight around there and warping the record that's inside. A couple of questions I have. First of all, what does it matter if a record is warped if you intend, you're the type of collector who wants to keep that seal and never open it? If you have no first of all, let's entertain the possibility. Okay, sure, we have an album, it's inside the shrink wrap, it's tight in there, the record is bent. If you never intend on ever opening it, you just have it as a collector's piece and never going to play it, then it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to you whether it's warped inside. You'll never know. That's common sense, right? If you don't know, it won't hurt you. What's the difference? But we'll go some examples here. I'll start with this. Here's a copy, although I have an outer sleeve on this. Let me turn my laptop down a little. Here's a copy of the soundtrack album from 1970 to Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and this has its original shrink on it. Yes, I have the right one. Well, it's hard to tell because I've got the outer clear sleeve over it, but this is from 1970. It's sturdy cardboard, and you can tell just by looking at it that its original shrink is still on it, sealed, and you can just tell it's not bent or compromised in any way. And I'll be willing to bet you that if I was to open this, the record would be perfectly preserved and there wouldn't be any warpage on it. Now, in a case like this, it doesn't matter because I have this copy that I bought many years earlier that does not have shrink wrap on it. So basically, this is the copy, this is the record I'll play. When I want to hear the record, I'll play the open one that I got many years ago. Then in recent years, I got the shrink wrap one. So you know what I'm saying? So if I want to play the record, I'm only going to play the one that's been opened. Anyway, what do I care? If the record is indeed warped in here, I'll never know it. It doesn't matter anyway to me. But I can tell it's not. Now there's some examples, let's be fair about it, where there may be some warpage. But before I get into those, here's a couple of other examples. Here's a copy of the early Beatles, original from the 60s. It's got shrink wrap on it, open shrink wrap, you know, split here. It's not going to get tight. It's after 50 years, it's not going to warp the record. The record's fine. I know that. I've seen it. I've played it. It's fine. Sturdy cardboard. The same thing for an album like this that's from 1965, and it's Bob Dylan's original Highway 61 Revisited, which again has the original shrink on it, split at the side. Now, if these were sealed, would it be a problem? Over the years, would it tighten up and warp the record? Now, I'm not going to say everything's 100%. I try to think there's shades of gray here and there, that not everything is either black or white. In a case like this, I don't think so because the cardboard is pretty tight, but it may have something to do with the heating elements. I mean, if you happen to keep a record like this sealed for a length of time and you have a very hot apartment, maybe you have it near a radiator or near a window where the sun always comes out, over the years, then I could see maybe the shrink wrap getting tight and making the record bend inside. That's what I think. But I think if they were stored in a, as the old saying goes, in a cool, dry place or in a good room temperature kind of thing without heating elements, I think you can keep these things sealed and nothing's ever going to happen to them. And certainly not. I always think as long as it's open at the side, the record shrink wrap breathes. The wrap will breathe and you won't have an issue. Now here's one I'm not 100% sure about, but here's a copy I have of the Beatles Story that's sealed. It's never been opened. This particular copy is not an original from the 60s. Now I don't know what year it is because I haven't opened it. I can tell when I touch the corners they're kind of thin and a little from the flimsy side. So this is made of thinner cardboard, and there's no barcode here, so I'm not sure if it's from the 80s. It could be from the 70s or 1981. I don't know. I'm guessing that it might be 70s, but I don't know. But I never intend on opening this. If I should ever have the desire to play this album again, which I really don't, it's not a very informative album but by these days' standards, I'm going to play one that I have from the 60s on the shelf over there that's already open. This is just a collector's piece, just to have it. And personally, I know everybody's different, but for people like me and Sgt. Pepper's 13, we get a kick and a joy and a fulfillment out of having an album like this that's actually still sealed. It's like a collector's piece, having a first-class postage stamp that's never been used or anything like that, or licked or whatever. That's exactly what this is like. So to me, to have it like this and keep it preserved is just an added thing. And if the records are warped in there, so what? I don't know. I'm never going to open it. The person after me may find out. But here's two examples I wanted to get at that might prove interesting. All right, about a year or two maybe ago, I went to a record show, and there was a guy there that had original sealed albums that have never been opened, and a lot of them were cutout bins. They had that cutout slice, but they were sealed. And this was one of them. It's the Rutles, the satire about the Beatles' career, and I got it because it had that sticker on here that says free record with this 28-page, oh, 20, I always say that wrong. The Rutles free record with this 20-page book. That's supposed to be a joke, you know. And it's got the sticker on it, it's got the shrink. Now the thing was sealed. Now this album, I'll tell you, I could tell when I got it that it was kind of tight. The cardboard doesn't feel unusually thin, but it is a little more flimsy than a 60s album or 50s album. I don't know. And when I got the record out, I don't know how well this is going to show up here, but it is a little warped. I remember playing it, and it was a little bit on the warp side. Well, here's where I'm going to pause my camera for a minute. Or go, well, to you it won't mean anything because you'll just see it dissolve in. And we're going to play this. I'll put it on the turntable, see what it looks like. Okay, so here we are with the Rutles album. Let's give it a look. It's a definite warp in it. I don't know how well that shows. Definitely, this is a record that didn't survive, and also the records in the 70s and 80s, especially 80s I would say, were a lot thinner. The records themselves weren't as thick, and they were more prone to warping. Now, I don't recall if the sound on this was bad enough. I think it might have been, but oops, I'm doing really good. I don't usually scratch a record, but I'm holding a camera at the same time. See the warp? Now I can't really tell sound-wise right here if it sounds bad. See, it sounds fine. The record sounds fine, but yet the warp bothers me a little bit. So what I intend on doing here is, at some point, getting a better record. It doesn't matter to me what the sleeve is like, and I'm going to replace the record. But still, it plays fine, it sounds fine, but this record did get warped. Now, I don't know the history of that record, meaning I don't know how it was kept, where it was kept, if it was in a place that was too hot, if it's just a matter of the fact that the cover might be a little flimsier than some of the harder covers, or the record itself was made a lot more bendable, flexible. Don't know. But it's easily fixed anyway. You know, that album, I see that all the time at my used record store. All I have to do is just at some point, in fact, I've seen them since then, and I've never got around to replacing it. It just doesn't matter that much to me. But, you know, I'll do that. I'll put the record in. The main reason I wanted it was because of the cover with the shrink. But while that was the only record I was going to show like that. And there was one other record that I wish that I could, I don't know where it is right now. It's a Rolling Stones import record called Around and Around, and it's got a very, very thin cardboard, and I bought it for $1 because it was warped. It was warped. The cover was cool. You know, it was a cool looking cover. But the whole part about it was the record started going up and down. Even though, again, it didn't affect play, but it was wobbling all over the place. And you could tell that cover was really, it had the shrink on it, and the corners were on the cover were bending in. It was just too tight for that particular record. But it's a rarity, you know. You don't usually come across that. Well, what I was starting to say was, as I was preparing this video, I was looking for records. And this is a complete mystery to me, and we're going to discover you and I here for the first time. I was looking for records that had shrink on them to make a case for not worrying about the shrink wrap. And I found this one. This is the first, I guess, first Monkees album, Meet the Monkees. An original one, and it's got the shrink wrap on it open here, and even the sticker from a Maze department store that it was bought at, which I like that kind of stuff. And then I was taking the record out of the jacket, and I looked at it and I thought, hey, wait a minute, they may be right, because even though this is an older, a more sturdier record from the 60s, it looks a little on the warped side. So I'm going to put this on the turntable. First time, I haven't examined this yet. We're going to see together what the deal is. Alrighty, so here we are with the Monkees record, and I'm going to turn the power on. And yes, this one looks slightly uneven. So let's hear it. If I can manage this without skipping it. There we go. But what I noticed about it is there's no problem with the sound. Sound is fine. But again, this is another album that all collectors probably see a lot. They probably run across this record a lot. And again, all I got to do, even for $1 record, or $2, $3, is just change the record in. So let's go back now to the regular video. So there were two examples of records that were warped, apparently because of the shrink, but it could be any reason. I mean, I don't know the history of that record. Maybe it was sitting close to a heater or a radiator. I don't know the deal with it. We can find warped records with the shrink wrap off, right? That's another thing. So that was interesting to find out. I haven't changed my mind by finding that because even though I'm not going to play every single record I have here that has shrink on it that's flat, I can find 100 records here that have the shrink wrap on them. They play flat. There's no moving and bouncing whatsoever, and then they're not warped in the least. I just found two here that I kind of try to be fair and show you. But basically, my point is that I don't think that shrink wrap harms records, at least not to a great degree. Depends more the care for them, I think, whether they were near heat, and which will tighten the shrink and stuff. So I'd like a lot of comments on this. If anybody wants to make videos, I know people don't like to make videos, and that's all right. You know, just comment anyway down here. I just felt like you know, you get people here all the time. We're all collectors. We all think this is the way to clean a record, no other way. This is the way to store your records, no other way. I have certain, I'm no different than anybody else. I have certain rules, like I will not take my records and lay them here and stack them. Everybody pretty much agrees, or should agree, that if you lay your records flat like this and put on 100 records and keep them that way, you're going to hurt the records. I believe that anybody who's a serious collector should have an outer sleeve to protect the cover. The jacket just as important to me as the record. That might not be for everybody. So my usual policy here, as usual, is everybody's different. Everybody's got their way. This is my 3 cents that I'm putting in. And generally speaking, I'm going to keep records sealed. And is the policy. One other one I almost forgot to show. Here's another one I got from that same guy at the fair that had a lot of records sealed that were in the cutout bins. This is an original 1978, I think it's 78, Beatlemania cast record. It's sealed. I'm not going to ever open this, and I don't really care to hear it, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think I had an original one in the 70s, and I played it to death back then. But I have this here mostly for collector's purposes, and I like it like this. And if the record's warped inside, so be it. I'll never know. I get my joy out of the years just admiring it like this. Cheers, everybody.